He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
All right, this is The Alex Marlow Show. Happy Easter to all of you. I hope you all had a great Easter. I had a really nice one. I went out of town, so thanks so much to all of you for listening to my show with Peter Schweitzer on Friday. We drove on down to San Diego to visit some cousins. It was a good group because Mrs. Dr. Marlow is close with a couple cousins, and they have lots and lots of children. And so in total, there were, I think, 11 children for the three couples that were there, which was really cool. Because it just doesn't happen very much where you can assemble 11 children at the same time in the same place. And my kids were the youngest, and then I had some in the middle, and none of the older kids, but there's lots of good stuff that was going on. But it was also marked the end of one of the toughest weeks of the year for me, the no nanny week. So we get the nannies get a couple weeks of paid vacation. And when I'm working 3 jobs and Mrs. Dr. Marlow's full time, those are long weeks. And so that's over. So I'm on easy street until Christmas time. So I'm feeling good about that. But it was really fascinating just to see year to year all of them grow up. I've told you, Master Marlow Jr. is my guy. He's the guy who he could be doing his favorite activity, but if I got to go to the grocery store and I'm trying to take one of the kids with me, then he will drop anything to hang out with me. But apparently I met my match, which was a 11-year-old cousin, because anything I requested of him, if the 11-year-old was doing anything remotely interesting than 5-year-old Master Marlow Jr., he was gone. And it wasn't even a question. He was just going. He was playing in these tide pools with these rocks. They're just incredibly dangerous for a grown-up, and he's 5 years old, and he's just jumping around in there, and Mrs. Dr. Marlow's about to have a heart attack. But hey, there were crabs. There were small, tiny little crabs, and I guess that's part of the magic of childhood, should you survive it. We had good mass experience. Master Marlow is 6 now. You could really see a lot of the energy that is derived from tradition. And so it's interesting because we'll start the show today talking about the passing of Pope Francis. Not my favorite pope for a number of reasons, but one thing that is important to keep in mind is that young people really do yearn for tradition. And I saw that on full display over the weekend. They like the ritual, they like the family stuff, they like the egg hunts, and then they like when you go to the church and there is a structure to it. And I think they like the ritual of it. There's something that is very mysterious and meaningful to them that makes them stop and listen. And I feel like in society, as we move further away from any sort of organizational structure at all, where we're just left to our own devices, literally, we just sit around fumbling with our phones. Are we becoming a happier, more cultured, more substantial, more spiritually, I would say, at peace people? The answer, of course, is no. So it's important to preserve this stuff. So the Pope passed away. I guess it was either earlier this morning or yesterday late. Noteworthy that right after he met with J.D. Vance. Is J.D. Vance the Grim Reaper? We don't know. Probably not. But it is the Pope was hanging on for dear life, so to speak. So this Pope's pontificate, Pope Francis, the way I characterized him when he was chosen about 12 years or so ago was as a badass with a heart of gold. Seemed to be a very tough guy and came from nothing, but also was very empathetic and really wanted to reach out to people who were on the margins of society. As it turned out, his pontificate really leaned into a lot of the social justice elements, a lot of the Marxism that he grew up with in Argentina. And it's one of these things where it was, by and large, a pretty big disappointment for me. It wasn't without some of its virtues. A couple of positives that I will identify is the church's numbers really went up a lot during his pontificate, several hundred million. And that's not to be sneered at. He also lived a very humble existence. So he lived in, I think, a couple room apartment in the Vatican. And I think that he downplayed some of the excess and largesse largely associated with certain popes, certain pontificates in the past, certain areas within the Catholic Church, certain eras within the Catholic Church. I think that's a positive. That's something that is worth noting. So he was outgoing, he was humble, and but I do think that he really bucked some of the traditions of the church. And in an effort to be inclusive, he may have overdone certain things, particularly with regards to Marxism and with regards to immigration. He thought all illegal aliens should be treated as if they're at least as virtuous, if not more virtuous, of the citizens of the areas in which they would migrate. Obviously, I don't vibe with that. Redistributionist economic policy, a lot of social justice stuff, in a lot of wokeifying of, I think, some of the Catholic traditions, which is, I don't want to spend too much on it, sort of uncouth a day after he died. But overall, I'm hoping that the next pope will move towards a more traditional view of the church and to really solidify a lot of those traditions, because we need it right now. And I saw this on full display during my Easter. The younger people, they need that tradition when it's such a chaotic environment. It's a comfort when things are traditional. And he was really, I think, operate on the edges of being able to normalize a lot of behavior. He would do things that I sort of loosely agreed with, where John Nolte and I talk about this a bit on our Breitbart Fight Club show today. Those of you who want a longer discussion, but he would do things like he was really keen on welcoming homosexuals into the church, but still condemning the sin of the behavior of homosexual acts. And I get it. I understand it. But also, if you spend too much time doing stuff like that you can, love the sin or hate the sin, I understand that. But we also need some leadership going on. And I feel like we've got a lot of society telling us that all sorts of fringe lifestyles are acceptable. I don't need more of that message. I need more of the message. We need to acknowledge our sins, repent for our sins, go through the reconciliation process. We need to show up at Mass. We need to have a traditional view of the Bible. We need to have a traditional view of the family. Those are the things we got to get to. The sex scandals that the church has been known for the past couple decades, they did not escalate on his watch. But I didn't really see a tough enough zero tolerance policy. I would like to see more done in that regard in future pontificates. And it'll be interesting to see what we get. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you about a called shot by Marlow. Goldman Sachs said gold could go to $3,300 an ounce this year. And what did I say to you, the Marlow audience? I said they're underselling it. Gold is going higher, and we're already here. It is now above $3,300 an ounce. And if you'd bought gold when Priority Gold came on as a sponsor for me, you would have made a lot of money by now, because gold is up 25% this year. It's still rising. You see the stock market chaos, total mess, much insecurity, trillions of dollars bouncing around, wildly fluctuations. Well, gold going up 25% this year. And now Goldman's revised their assessment. They think it could go over $3,700 an ounce. So now's the time to get in. PriorityGold.com. You can get a gold and silver IRA, a precious metals IRA, tax and penalty free, really easy to do. You go to PriorityGold.com/freedom, or you text the word freedom to 24999, to PriorityGold/freedom, or text freedom to 24999. They will give you a wealth preservation guide, gold and silver information. It will let you know exactly what you can do to shield your wealth during all this chaos. And if things continue the way they are, you're going to grow it as well. Great partners, great people. PriorityGold.com/freedom, or text freedom to 24999. All right. So we have a big breakdown of how the Pope gets chosen. I think there's 120 or so cardinals, I think about 70% of which are appointed by Pope Francis. So a lot of them could be in his image, but it does seem like there's a more conservative group, and you got to get to 2/3 vote. So we shouldn't see someone that's going to be too offensive. But I'm hoping we might return to some of that intellectualism associated with Pope Benedict, which is really what resonated with me. I loved his breakdown of scripture, and I loved his analysis, and that was really meaningful for me and my connection with the church on a personal level. I do like the idea of being an evangelist, as Pope Francis was, but that said, that did not outweigh the Marxism, the open borders, all that stuff that he liked. So we'll see. I got high hopes, and we will continue to keep you posted at Breitbart.com. And here's to hoping that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is the new Pope. He's my main pick. I think he should be the main guy. Don't we think? He's the guy. He's got to be the Pope. All right. Hope Walz has some ideas about Christianity. This phenomenon of these lefties just going on social media and just saying insane stuff. Here's Tim Walz's daughter. Let me play this. Misty, I'm not able to play clips again. I think it's only when you're in the room. I played them fine when you were gone. Okay. I think I've refreshed it. Here we go. Here's some Hope Walz for you.
If Jesus were alive today and in the United States, this administration would have already taken him and removed him from this country without due process, claimed he was a member of the MS-13 gang as a way to try to justify not giving him due process, as if there is any justifiable reason to not giving somebody due process. But yeah, some people don't want to talk about that. It truly is baffling how clear and laid out everything is, and there is still people standing by it.
It's interesting to give an argument to provide no justification and then just to announce that it's clear and move on. You have to admire the chutzpah of that. I certainly don't have that, which is, no, this is just a fact. And then I won't give you any basis for why I think it's a fact. Just tell you it's a fact.
Standing by it. I believe in the good of people and like humanity, humans, you know, deep down at our core, like we care about each other. But that's really being tested, because how anyone is okay with this is terrifying to me. But yeah, if you look like me, speak up, speak out, because we might be the only ones safe from what's coming and some of the only people that are able to stop it. So yeah, it's our duty at this point.
Yeah, there's an element of wokeness where you feel like that you have to be a white person who lectures other white people. And I thought we were getting past this, but maybe not. I heard this is just white-splaining to white people that you got to be an ally of people who are not white. So it just there is so much white guilt that goes on, but only on the left, and that's why you don't spend a lot of time with these people. Deeply sinful commentary in all accuracy, because if you think about what she is saying is she's trying to speak on behalf of, she's trying to have, there's a veneer of religiosity to it, suggesting that the Trump administration goes against Jesus. She has no right to say that. She not knowledgeable about it. And it is you're not allowed to, this is carrying the Lord's name in vain. It's people always act like saying, GD or oh my God is carrying the Lord's name in vain. It's not really it. This is probably for a longer conversation, and I'm sure it'll come up down the road. But really, what the sin is to act like you're speaking on behalf of God when you're not. And that's sort of what she's doing. She's acting like she understands Jesus's will, and she's just bringing that to the public. So anyway, but how would she know any better? Because she's a moral idiot, and she was raised by another moral idiot, Tim Walz. So go back over 1 million abortions. Woke is not dead, guys. I read this in the New York Times. What is dark woke? Democrats are trying out a new attitude. It's provocative. It's edgy. It's perilously towing the line of not being too offensive. They're talking about Jasmine Crockett. This is from earlier today. And they're talking about being crass but discerning, rude but only to a point. It's called dark woke. And they're trying to find their footing on the left. Democrats are. And they're struggling for a number of reasons. They have no leadership. And they're trying to decide if they need to have some sort of a civil war. David Hogg, who is one of the top people in the Democratic Party now. Recall that our friend Alex Bruzewitz, who I did a great interview with in the first few weeks of the show, that you can get long form, really interesting guy. He was the architect of Trump's great podcast strategy that helped him win the 2024 election. He basically created the David Hogg candidacy, and then David Hogg won and became whatever it is, vice chair of the DNC. And now Hogg wants to upend the party and run primaries in Democrat safe seats, perhaps leading to less likable candidates who get nominated but couldn't win a general. So it'll probably backfire. But again, we had our own civil war on the Republican side and it worked out well for us. So I don't totally begrudge them their desire to have some sort of a civil war. But who's going to win? It's probably going to be the people who are in the organizational left, the institutional left, because those are the people that I think are more access to Democrat dollars and donor dollars. Reince Priebus, who is not an effective RNC leader, but is knowledgeable about this stuff. He was on a panel with Hogg over the weekend. We get a clip of this. Check this out.
As a former party chairman, Reince, how would you handle a vice chair who was going to primary?
Well, I'll answer and then I'll explain it. I mean, unfortunately, David, I'd have you removed from the party because I think, number one, I think you're sincere. I don't question that. I think you're right. The Democrats are a complete mess. They have no movement.
I don't think that's exactly what he said.
He said they've got no message. They've got no movement. They've got no leader. I mean, it doesn't.
Hogg's not a dumb guy. This got to be kind of awkward for him because he can't agree with Priebus on anything. So he probably doesn't like because I don't want to go on any shows and then have the worst people in the world agree with me. That's what he's thinking of Priebus, former RNC chair, though not a Trumpian guy, but was a guy who was powerful at the RNC.
I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that. I mean, you're defending Harvard. You're traveling to El Salvador for MS-13 gang members. But here's the point. You're taking $20 million. If I'm looking at someone, my vice chair of the RNC, taking $20 million for another effort, it's $20 million out of the DNC's pocket. You can't be on the board of the Fishing and Forest Company and on Greenpeace at the same time. There are places for groups to hold the party accountable. I think it's right.
Yeah, let me push back against that. This was not.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, but let me push back. See, he knows what's going on. This was not an
MS-13 gang member, and you damn well know that.
Oh, come on.
He was not.
Okay, and so keep defending this guy.
The administration admitted this was wrong. In America, we have due process, and we are a land of law and order. We are.
All right, well, we'll come back with Garcia content. But anyway, Democrats having a civil war, and the question is, can they pull off this dark woke thing? And I'm rooting for them. And it's going to be led by Crockett if it is. So can they get a version of woke? Can they keep it around, but somehow make it highly aggressive, but discerning and rude, but only to a point? I like it. I got a Crockett clip. I'll just play it. Just why not? I mean, we got it here. Let's just do it. You got to listen in closely. It's just not crystal clear, but let's listen a little bit.
I want y'all to know that every day that I walk in those halls, regardless of whatever rhetoric they put out about me, I am a very serious lawmaker. At the same time, if you try me, you will find out. I just want to be clear about that because I am.
What's unbelievable about this is that she stole Sharpton's look. So she's in front of Sharpton giving that speech, National Action Network, which is Al Sharpton's group. And Sharpton's there in a three-piece suit, but she stole Sharpton's look. She's in a velour tracksuit. And that was Sharpton's look for years when Sharpton was at his best, was when he was heavy set, wearing the velvet tracksuit. Man, she's a very serious lawmaker. So don't underestimate Jasmine and don't underestimate dark woke. So, which the Democrats acknowledge it is mostly a meme that lives online. Kind of coming from the dark Brandon, but Democratic strategists are saying it is. Jasmine Crockett's a perfect example of dark woke. Could we get a dark woke party? I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. You can get Tim Walz's daughter in there. I got a little more Easter commentary because Trump has the White House egg roll is today. We got some footage of this. Let's just go straight into the footage. Let's see what we got. Here's Trump. He's there.
Of time. We're honoring Jesus Christ, and we're going to honor Jesus Christ very powerfully throughout our lives, all throughout our lives.
This is, if you're missing the visuals and you're not on YouTube or Rumble, it doesn't get any better than this. Trump's on the balcony at the White House. He's got beautiful flowers in front of him. Melania's there looking like $1 million, and just a absolutely beautiful Easter bunny, clearly a very small person, maybe a child in a suit, dress up like an Easter bunny. Someone did a really nice job crafting this thing.
Not just now, all throughout our lives. We're bringing religion back in America. We're bringing a lot of things back, but religion is coming back to America. That's why you see the kind of numbers that you're seeing, the spirit and the kind of numbers that you're seeing. So we're going to come down and join you right now. But I just want to wish everybody once again, happy Easter and enjoy your lives. We're going to have a great 4 years. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Wow. Awesome stuff. It's we're going to honor Jesus very powerfully throughout our lives. I love that. It's just his plain speaking is necessary. He doesn't talk past anyone. We're honoring Jesus throughout our lives. Hope you all enjoy your life. It's great stuff. Great stuff. We got more. I guess this is the roll part. Now they're rolling the eggs, and which is, I never have witnessed that. So I don't know why you would roll the eggs. Let's play. I got one more clip. Okay, this is the best. So Trump is now coloring. He's now coloring with children. So these children, I mean, this must be surreal. So he's got crayons out. He's got several crayons. He looks completely focused. right now. And all these kids are freaking out, and he's just drawing with children. This is what he's doing right now.
I'm really into this. No, I'm really into this.
I'm really into this.
Now. We don't have a white crayon. What am I going to do? Leave it wet, I guess. Leave the whole thing white. Okay, smile up there, kids. You know, you'll smile your mom and dad.
Wants a white crayon. He's really into it. I always mention this about his personality, how he's such a fatherly figure. He loves being grandfather, you can tell. And he loves the family element of it. It's just genuine. It's just who he is. He likes that part of life. And so it's part of, I think, what draws people to him. Don't miss John Binder, who's written fashion notes about Melania's outfit with her leather trench coat that she's wearing. That's eggshell colored. It's amazing. I got to go to the egg roll once during Trump's first administration, and it was a blast. Master Marlow was my only child at the time, and just the photos of him are priceless, truly priceless. I'll have them forever, and I'll cherish them forever. Just truly amazing day. And something that's funny is that it's all really about the farmers. It really is about eggs. It is a big egg day. There is just eggs everywhere. I must have had 1,000 hard-boiled eggs that day. Yeah, they're just constantly passing out the hard-boiled eggs, and the farmers are really flexing their stuff. And you would think, like, what is it? What is an egg roll? No, it's a lot of hard-boiled eggs. Like, you just sit around eating hard-boiled eggs, and then there's an Easter bunny hopping around, and that's the experience. So apparently the kids draw as well. So let's see what else we got going on. Yeah, it does make you feel like when you see stuff like that. I've been thinking a lot about, should I go back to DC? Should I live there, or should I uproot my family from our nice little existence? And then you see stuff like Kristi Noem, Secretary Kristi Noem, had a bag snatch from DC restaurant, and she had $3,000 of cash inside. So she was robbed in DC. Was it a gunpoint? I'm trying to figure this out right now. I no evidence of it was a gunpoint yet, but she got her bag stolen. First of all, she's kind of balling if she's carrying around $3,000 in cash. There's a lot of cash. Any of you carry around $3,000 in cash? There's a 2-minute window where I might have that amount of cash once a month, and then take that home and sock that away. That's about it. I don't roll around DC with $3,000 in cash on me. But she was robbed. Apparently, it's just a crime-ridden city. It's not that pleasant from what I'm told. If you're there, email me, aloha@alexmarlow.com. I'm trying to take the temperature because DC was so fun during the first couple of years of Trump's administration. The coronavirus and then Joe Biden winning was ruined everything. But when I was there at the end of Obama into the early Trump years, it was a blast, and I was missing it a little bit. But then you see stuff like this and you think, who needs it? What I've been hearing from my friends who moved back, it's not all that fun still. We're still not that great. But Trump, from his message to the crowd at the egg roll, he also trolled the radical left lunatics. So he had a big truth bomb to this effect as well. Happy Easter to all, including the radical left lunatics who are fighting and scheming so hard to bring murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners, and the mentally insane and well-known MS-13 gang members and wife beaters back into our country. Happy Easter also to the weak and ineffective judges and law enforcement officials who are allowing the sinister attack on our nation to continue. An attack so violent that it'll never be forgotten. Sleepy Joe Biden purposely allowed millions of criminals to enter our country totally unvetted and unchecked through an open border policy that will go down in history as the single most calamitous act ever perpetrated on America. He was by far worse and most incompetent president, a man who had absolutely no idea what he was doing. And to him and to the person that ran and manipulated the auto pen, perhaps our real president, and to all the people who cheated in 2020, he goes on from there. Anyway, I wish them all a happy Easter. So in this message, he's talking about the other big item of the day, which is the Abrego Garcia case. We saw Chris Van Hollen. I'm sure any of you had access to the internet, going down to El Salvador, having margaritas with him. Is it true that Bukele staged the margaritas, that they weren't really going to eat margaritas? But a guy who now has a domestic violence complaint against him, so perhaps a wife beater. There was a story of him getting arrested, I guess, in Tennessee, or getting stopped in Tennessee with a bunch of people in a car or a van, and they had no luggage on them. So obviously they were transitory migrants that seemed to be getting smuggled into the country, perhaps. But he's also just a Maryland man, and he's entitled to due process. I'm just telling you, the left is trying to die on this hill because they want due process for each and every illegal alien who is in the country, because that will tie up the courts for hundreds of years. It will make it so that Donald Trump's agenda cannot get through, because then every time that they file some injunction, they're able to get it, tie up the courts, make it so that they cannot approve whatever Trump is doing from his executive branch. This is their method. This is what they're trying to do to slow down this presidency. They're trying to use hysteria. They're trying to use lawfare. And if they're able to do it effectively, then the Trump is going to have a hard time getting much of his agenda through. So Chris Van Hollen was talking about this. He was the senator from Maryland, because he's a Maryland man, of course. Abrego Garcia, whatever his name is. He has been on the media talking about the strategy, giving away some pointers about where they're at. Let's play this.
Now, President Trump says that some of Abrego Garcia's tattoos signify that he's a member of MS-13. In 2019, police alleged a confidential informant claimed that Abrego Garcia was an active MS-13 member. His wife and his attorney deny that, of course. Can you say with absolute certainty that he is not, nor has he ever been a member of the MS-13 gang? And did you ask him point blank?
Well, Dana, what Donald Trump is trying to do here is change the subject. The subject at hand is that he and his administration are defying a court order to give.
So this is really important. What he's saying here is that this is the strategy. He's revealing the strategy. They're trying to trap Trump in not abiding by a court order. And I'm playing this not because I know it's irritating to hear, but this is what they're trying to do. It's important to understand this. They're trying to trap Trump by getting him to violate a court order and to create some momentum to win a midterm and then impeach Trump for violating court orders. That's what's going on.
To give Abrego Garcia his due process rights. They are trying to litigate on social media what they should be doing in the courts. They need to put up or shut up in the courts. Let me tell you, and I decided to write this down so I could be absolutely accurate as to what Federal District Court Judge Zinnes said about these allegations by the Trump administration. Quote, no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or any terrorist activity has been presented to the court. That's where to litigate this. It's been litigated in many other places.
Sure, but you got the tattoos that look like MS-13 tattoos. And we had a huge story at Breitbart that I just referenced, that there was a Department of Homeland Security investigation into him that revealed that he was pulled over with 8 individuals in a car on an admitted 3-day journey from Texas to Maryland with no luggage. So if you had no luggage, then where are these people coming from? They were just in Texas and they had nothing and they were going to Maryland? No, they had nothing because they were traveling from south of the border up into this country and coming here illegally. And that's only possible unless they have connections to organized crime operating both south of the border and in the United States. That's how you do it. We hear far too much about the gang members and the criminals' false sob stories and not enough about their victims. This was according to Assistant Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, Tricia McLaughlin. Yeah, good call on that one. So, stop in 2022. This is pretty recent. I-40. The Tennessee Highway Patrol contacted federal law enforcement authorities, Biden-era FBI, apparently didn't do much. They made the decision not to detain him. That's an outrage. We should impeach Joe Biden. Let's get him back. Let's impeach him. Can you impeach a past president? He deserves it. Let's hear more. Let's see if Van Hollen gives away more of the game.
Many other places. So yeah. I'm not going to get into the details because the whole purpose of our court system is for them to adjudicate these things, not for Donald Trump to go off on social media.
Yeah, you're right. They have not, there hasn't been a court hearing for them to put forward evidence in the first place, which is your whole point. But since you were the one person to have met with him, and since this is a thing, you say on social media, it's what we hear from Donald Trump and Republicans every day, all day long, you didn't ask him?
I didn't ask him that because I know what his answer is. What he told me was he was sad and traumatized that he was being in prison because he has committed no crimes. And that goes to the heart of this issue because he's...
you get so much out of these clips because it's so revealing that he thinks a guy committed no crimes. It's obviously we got this human smuggling incident. We got the allegations of the spousal abuse. We got the fact that he came to the country illegally to begin with. And the concept is that the no crimes committed in these Democrats do we have any standards for how you're supposed to behave in this country when you're here? None, apparently, so long as you can be used as some sort of a political weapon.
Because he's being denied his due process rights, and Donald Trump is trying to change the subject. And, you know, when people start asking that question, in my view, they're falling into the president's trap, because what the president wants to do is talk about that as if we can't all fight gang violence, which I've been doing for much longer.
No, I don't think he's trying to change the subject. I think he's trying to color with children, the egg roll. I think that's the main thing Trump would like to do. Trump just wants his agenda to go through, and I don't think he likes the idea that he's being stopped from deporting people. Remember, if we bring Garcia back, we're just going to deport him for another he'll get deported eventually, and now we're going to make an example of him. So the left does think, though, that this is a path for them. They really think this is a path, and they're going to die on this hill for whatever reason. And let's see if it works for them. But Trump, no, he has these maneuvers where he's able to corner people into taking stances that are ridiculous. Think about the Harvard saga now that we'd Steve Kerr, the woke NBA coaches Golden State Warriors. He was wearing a Harvard shirt in response to Trump funding $2 billion of their $8 billion that they get from the federal government. So Harvard doesn't need a penny. We give them $6 billion now, and we used to give them $8 billion, and now we need to stand up to the bullies because of poor little Harvard. Trump is getting, in a moment of authenticity, in a moment where people have record credit card delinquencies and are maxed out credit cards and everyone's struggling, you have one of the richest institutions in the world, Harvard University. We cut off $2 billion, and now he's got the whole left just dying on this hill for Harvard now. It's a great trap set by Trump. And I hope he continues this stuff, because getting the left to stake out these untenable positions is a very, very wise piece of strategy for him. All right, let's see what else we got going. Oh, the other big one today is Pete Hegseth in the hot seat. There are even reports, Mediaite and NPR, a couple other places, that this could be the end of Pete Hegseth. The White House is vehemently denying this. There's a big reports of leaking over the weekend, and then the leaks led to some firings. It seems good to fire people who are leakers, and it's a huge department. Pentagon is absolutely massive, one of the biggest bureaucracies we have, and it's got to be tough to get your arms around it. But the new signal chat revelations from the last couple of days suggest that actually there was still nothing classified or highly classified that was revealed, nothing that made the situation much worse for Hegseth, but things go on in terms of the news cycle. The news cycle is still with us. Sean Parnell, who is the spokesperson for the Pentagon, said, "Another day, another old story, back from the dead. Trump-hating media continues to be obsessed with destroying anyone committed to President Trump's agenda. This time, the New York Times and all other fake news are repeating their garbage. They're enthusiastically taking their grievances of disgruntled former employees as the sole source of their article." So the implication is the latest non-revelations come from disgruntled people who have been either removed or forced out, etc. Parnell continues, "They relied only on the words of the people who were fired this week and appear to have a motive to sabotage the secretary and the president's agenda. No classified information, any signal chat, no matter how many ways they try to write the story, which is true in the Office of Secretary of Defense, continuing to become stronger and more efficient in executing President Trump's agenda. We've already achieved so much for the American warfighter, and we'll never back down." I hope they hold to it, because, again, we can't be given inches right now. And really suggesting that if Trump is on the same page, and Carolyn Leavitt said the same thing when she was asked about it earlier today, we cannot give in on Hegseth. He won the most important nominees because he is an outsider, and his outsider status, the fact the media feels like they're going to get this scalp, we absolutely cannot give it to them, especially over something so small. And when he wants to remove people who he believes are leaking against him and thus against the president's agenda and against his country, that needs to be applauded. We need to cheer for that stuff. We need to be very excited about it as well. So I think this is a big one, and I'll keep you updated. Hopefully we'll hold the line on this. There's so many other bad things going on in this country. Just the thought that this signal leak would be the biggest thing. We're still seeing the Tesla vandalism. This latest one that we've seen in Brooklyn, the suspect is a licensed clinical social worker. It's interesting thing. These people who act like they want to do good are the ones who are the most unhinged. You be really careful about this. A lot of people in society, they take these jobs like social work and they think they're going to be helping out. And they're really just deranged lunatics who are trying to, who have a lot of violence in their heart. What happens when a culture starts trading truth for comfort? Live Not by Lies is a bold new docuseries by Angel Studios. Uncovers soft totalitarianism quietly taking root in the West through censorship, digital surveillance, and the erosion of free thought. Inspired by Rod Dreher's best-selling book, the series features firsthand accounts from the survivors of communism who recognize warning signs because they've lived through them before. Their stories are raw, deeply moving, and they draw parallels between yesterday's regimes and today's cultural climate. This isn't just about history. This is about right now and what's happening to all of us, and why we should not stay silent and what we risk if we do. Live Not by Lies is a challenge to every viewer to reject conformity at the expense of our conscience and to stand firm in faith, family, and freedom. Streaming now on angel.com. You can go to angel.com/Marlow. Check out my friends at the Angel Guild. You visit today, and that's how you can get Live Not by Lies right now. Angel.com/Marlow. Let me give you an example. Colin Kaepernick is now training for the NFL again. Kaepernick's 37 now, and he was a guy who's an NFL quarterback, made it to a Super Bowl, had achieved a lot on the field, but then decided to make himself the face of social justice. But it's not really, that's a euphemism for anti-police activity that made the world a much less safe place. It was the Ferguson effect. You trace it right back to Kaepernick, who hasn't played football since 2016 season. So obviously he's not coming back 9 years later. He gave up his career because he was so toxic, because he wouldn't take a stand against police enforcing laws in our cities. Since then, our cities have gotten more lawless and it has not worked out for us. The movement that he was a big part of with that dovetailed into Black Lives Matter, all that made our cities less safe and just not a nice place to be. Being in cities in America used to be the centerpiece of global culture, and now it just feels like you're vulnerable all the time. Take the Kristi Noem example. All right. My prediction is he will not succeed in his comeback. Okay, a couple other ones I want to highlight for you. Transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney has teased a permanent move out of the United States of America. This self-deportation of our nuttiest people is a added benefit to Trump's presidency. I'm completely fine with this. Everyone should move, but he it was so confusing. He told the UK-based gay website Pink News that he's looking to permanently relocate to England. That does not say very much for England. I know there's some of you from England in the audience, and you got to tell me what's going on that you guys would be so hospitable. But Mulvaney was probably useful for us in terms of the end of the woke moment. I think when they tried to advertise this guy on the beer cans that were typically designed for males, straight males, a lot of them white males, from parts of the country that are not subjected to the woke freakout that's taking place in a lot of our cities. And that I think insult was one of the beginning. It was a moment that was the beginning of the end of woke for a lot of people. This is going way too far that we are now slapping the man impersonating as a young girl. I've said this before about Mulvaney. One of the things that's interesting. It's not just that he's a dude impersonating a woman, but he's impersonating a child, a female child, and his audience is young girls, underage girls, and that is deeply weird. And one of those things where it is, you would think there would be much more robust condemnation of this sort of behavior because it's predatory against children. It's trying to disrupt the families. It's trying to take impressionable people and take advantage of them and their moment in life where they're developing and they're growing and they're maturing, hopefully into adults. It is not a helpful thing for our society if this is the type of people we're elevating and celebrating with beer cans and trying to get major corporations to throw a party for 1 year of womanhood. Wasn't that the thing that the Budweiser did? They did a 1 year of womanhood thing. Why would you ever do something so absurd, ever, particularly if you want to go back out and market to people who are tailgating a college football game. All right, so good. But you get clarity, and if this is not a country for Dylan Mulvaney, then I think we'll survive. All right, only one other one I want to highlight today is what this caught my eye. Ben Affleck, who's gotten a movie out called The Accountant 2. I was not aware there was an Accountant 1. So I don't know what that says about me, if that says more about me or about Affleck. But he was talking about how Hollywood is broken, and I was struck by this. Let me play this for you.
Other places will have like better exchange rates or tax rebate deals that are meant to lure this industry there because they understand how stimulative it is for their economies. I think part of the problem with California is that they came to take this industry for granted a little bit. Now, I will say the current governor, I think, doubled the tax rebate amount in bulk available, but the percentage that you get back in terms of the actual budget doesn't compete.
He looks completely nuts.
Like England.
If you're watching this, he looks like he might be on something. He's seems very, very thin. He's kind of heads bobbing around in a very funny way. So I don't know. I think he's had some substance abuse issues. So I hope he's doing okay. But he's making a really interesting point about how Hollywood is no longer in Hollywood. And this is probably familiar to many of you in the audience, but Hollywood used to actually be in Hollywood. People make movies in studios, but it's so expensive to do it here because cast and crew are more expensive because the cost of living is so high. And then also there's no tax incentives to do it. So you get lured away to places like Georgia, places like New Mexico, even places all around the world, places like Vancouver, Canada, places in Europe where they make it much cheaper, not just the crews because it could take hundreds or thousands of people to make a big Hollywood production, but also they make the tax rates more hospitable. So Hollywood has not been here for a while, but I find what's most interesting about this is I never heard Affleck say anything about this in the past. And he is just like almost every big shot in Hollywood. He's been a Democrat type of activist and a big supporter of the Democrat Party over the years. And whenever he pops up politically, he is always saying something like he wouldn't like working with Republican actors. And then now he's confused, I guess, or partially confused why Hollywood, why you got to travel all over the world and you can't just shoot in your hometown where you live and you work and your office is there because the incentive is not there. Well, it's because Democrats ruined it. So let's play some more.
Like England, which is why you see a lot of these big, huge movies shoot in the UK, or even, there have been New Mexico and Louisiana and Texas and Massachusetts and New Jersey, a lot, Georgia. Yeah, people give these tax rebates, and they've been sort of controversial. But one of the things that happens is that it does cause people where this used to be the center of that to move to other states for work. And it's really the technicians, the crew that make or break your movie. And you need the best people, you need good people. As a director, I know that to be true. And so if people move away, that really hurts the industry.
So there you go. So people move away because the job's not there anyway. And you see a lot of these actors that were thought of as the fabric of Hollywood. They're not present they're leaving the state because they don't need to be here. Because even if you have something here, you can come in for a meeting and leave because you're just not likely to end up having to shoot something here at all because of the cost of it. And you would think this would be a wake up call for Democrats. But the problem is I've noticed out here and in most parts of the country, they're not doing well, is they just continue to vote the same way, is that they don't like the way things are going and they continue to vote the same way. And this is the big frustration. And a big thing to do to challenge the people in your life is to confront them with this fact that if you don't like the way a certain thing is, will you continue to support the same people who made the problem to begin with? And this is where Donald Trump, I think, came in and he was able to do this to Republicans. And we listened. We said, we don't want to keep voting for the same Republicans because they don't do anything. So will the Democrats with their civil war, will they be able to do that? Or maybe more likely, hopefully more likely, that we will be able to present our arguments to people on the left, Democrats, and we will be able to convert them to our side and say, if you're unhappy with the way the tax rate is, well, there's only one side that likes cutting taxes at all, so maybe you should talk to them. So, all right, that's it. I thought that was an important thing because it always strikes me when people come around to ideas years and years late and act like that they just haven't completely airballed for their last couple decades. So there it is. All right, that's today's show. Aloha to alexmarlow.com if you want to get in touch. Thanks to our producer, Misty. Thanks to all of you for liking, subscribing, leaving a 5-star review wherever you see it. All helps us grow and thrive. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.